So, busy Tuesday. As always, let's just dive straight into it. So this is a fun, maybe I should say interesting week for the both of you because you both had conferences or have conferences. Megan, tell us where you just came from.
Yeah, I just got back from a Kidscreen where my business partner, Kaylee Mullen, was giving a talk on kids and YouTube and everything that you need to know. And it went swimmingly. She was amazing as always. And it was just really nice to meet a lot of people who are making kids content on YouTube and like asking all the right questions. And like, I always love talking to creatives. And I got to speak to the Infati client, Liz. So we had a really great lunch meeting, and yeah, I was a business lady networking over the weekend, and it was nice.
Um, well, of course, I just have to ask one follow-up question.
Yeah.
Knowing that, of course, Whoopi and Fadi is one of our beloved clients.
Yes.
Broadly, like walking away from the conference, and this
Hmm.
is very hard, but like, what is the TLDR with kids content on YouTube?
Yeah.
Like, how is it doing? What are the things to take note of if you are a content creator in that space? What's your advice?
My advice is that it's very nebulous, and that I think that there are some people who are doing it very successfully. I got to see a panel with the creators of it's Gracie's Clubhouse. What is that? What it's called?
Gracie's Corner.
Gracie's Corner. Yes, it was the creator of Gracie's Corner, Miss Monica, who's an educator, a family vlogger. And it was interesting listening to them talk about how they found success on the platform. And it's really cliche, but it's all the basics like community, authenticity, like continuing to like hit your same beats. One thing that they shared was the 5 pillars, like the YouTube kids content pillars of like the kind of priorities that YouTube has for kids content of like teaching them emotional skills, like teaching them to go out into the world, caring for other people. And so that was interesting. And so the takeaway was like YouTube kids, like, cause that's a gated, gardened community that's like separate from YouTube main. YouTube Kids is doing a lot to provide kids with good, fulfilling content. But the reality of the situation is like that relies on parent like intervention. And if you're just giving your kids YouTube main, you're giving them access to the whole World Wide Web. So it's kind of hard to parse out when you talk about kids in YouTube because there is kind of the walled garden of like what that content is. And it's honestly, kids content is evergreen. It's like what you would expect, what we were seeing when we were kids, just through the lens of 2026 like aesthetics. And then there's YouTube main, which is like, Mr. Beast and all of the brands and things like that. And that's kind of where Kaylee focused her talk to talk about like what's emergent in those spaces and how to break through in those spaces. So we're going to be talking more about that in this week's Cool Shiny Culture. So if you want kind of like the TLDR on Kaylee's talk, that'll be there. But in general, I think that the kids space is actually hurting a little bit because so much of it is moving online and there's not as much like investment from the large companies. But like everything we've been saying, there's also opportunity because it's an open field. You can come in and define the space if you're willing to like put in the work. So it was kind of like there's no answer, but it's also a really opportunistic time for the people who want to put the work in.
I love hearing that. I think, again, just having been working hand in hand with Whoopi and Body too, who, again, they've done such a great job and they are part of YouTube Kids. But that walled garden
Yes.
is both like a blessing and a curse because it, obviously puts you into a certain protected space and you're within, again, the YouTube Kids world, but you also don't necessarily get the benefits of that like added virality and like reach that open Wild West YouTube has. And so it's been sort of interesting, like, again, trying to like test different types of content to see what hits and what resonates. And it's so different than like, again, like classic, again, I come from news. So I feel like news programming, it's like what's happening in the world, you lean into that and like whatever's trending and whatnot. Kids content, it's so funny. It's like you'll post something, crickets, and then like months later, all of a sudden it'll be like 40,000 views. And you're like, well, why?
Yeah.
It might have been the algorithm. It could have been like a snowstorm and everyone was stuck at home and like the kids were, put in front of YouTube and like or maybe it was a type of video that, like, again, kids get very, like, they love to hear the same thing over and over again. Like, any parent, it's like my Spotify, it's just, like, these same songs or, like, the same things on YouTube. So it's just interesting, like, how through, like, the perspective of a child, like, an algorithm gets affected as well.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I think you'll find interesting is kind of not as related to content, but related to kids, like IP in general. I got to talk to Jane Gould, who's the CEO of Wonderworks, and they're another research agency that focuses on early childhood content. And we were talking about Mattel's in a bit of a doll problem right now. I don't know if you know about this, but Barbie sales are down, American Girl sales are down, and kind of there's like, what's going on with dolls? So we were having a great conversation about dolls, but she introduced something to me called the Dora Problem. And I was like, well, what is the Dora problem? And she's like, well, if you're a kid, you only need one Dora. And then you get your Dora. That's your Dora. You do everything with her. You go on your adventures. I don't need another Dora. I don't need like a plush one and a Barbie and a whatever. So I was like, that's so interesting to think about as you're creating IP. If you have a hero character, you still have to think about how do you create a world with collectibles, especially in this environment right now where it's like it's all about trinkets and collecting. And so I thought that was so interesting, the one Dora problem. So if you're creating new kids IP, that's something to consider.
That is so well, to that point also, even though we tend to we're conceptualizing often from, like, the media side of it, like the
Yeah.
actual content.
Mhm.
And one thing we have learned is that, like, with to your point, like, with kids content, you actually wanna jump straight to merchandise and almost, like,
Mhm.
there's this element of, like, almost working backwards from it.
Yeah.
And figuring out, like, okay, so it's, like, beyond the programming, what's, like, the tangible, what's, like, the in-person, what's that thing that can then be sold in stores. It's almost like you envision your, like, Target aisle first, or not first, but, like, at the same time,
Yeah.
and that cast of characters is part of it. It's funny, it's interesting to hear you sort of speak on American Girl because I just wanna give them a shout out. I think that they have been doing a great job. My six-year-old has my daughter has an American Girl doll that looks like her. I think that the brand has done, in my opinion, as a millennial that was very into American Girl, I
Mhm.
had Samantha, and then I actually had the first generation of, like, doll that looks like you. I think I was, like, 12 when I got it too. But I held on to those dolls, always wanted them for, if I had a future daughter. And then, like, now they've really been, like, leaning back into that, like, millennial, like, playing the millennial heartstrings because we're all parents now, or, like,
Yes.
all of us,
Nostalgia.
like,
Mhm.
the nostalgia of it. And I just wanna say, like, we've been to the American Girl store in New York City twice. We go at Christmas time when we're there in New York, and I actually think that the experience is great. Like, I made a lunch reservation, and they have the whole thing where the doll gets to sit on the side of the table, and I thought it was gonna be this, like, overpriced, terrible experience, and it wasn't. It was actually great, priced affordably, an amazing chopped salad, by the way. Like, the food was so good. They made it elevated but affordable. And then this year we went back because Lucy's doll, the hair was, like, totally
Yes.
destroyed. We made an appointment at the salon. You guys, it was amazing. Like, the most wonderful, like, hairdresser did the doll's hair. It was $20. Like, it made it, like, new again. She braided it. Like, we got it was I think that they're doing great. So someone call me over there. I'm like, "I'll talk to you guys."
I think the product is great. I think the whole category is suffering as kids spend less time with toys and more time with technology. And then younger and younger kids are graduating from toys to collectibles and technology. So it's not even that like anything they're doing wrong, just like the behavior is shifting and they need to figure out how to bring the brand
It seems like
into
they
this
need
new.
do they have video content programming? Like, do
I
they
don't
have
know,
animation?
because they did a really good job with that of Barbie for Gen Z. Like, I feel like Barbie grew up watching Gen Z grew up watching Barbie
Watching
media,
Barbie,
and
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how they came to love Barbie, less so than the actual dolls. Like, I played with the actual dolls. So, I think they're just trying to figure out how do we reach this generation. I think the nostalgia angle works, but, like, there's also a lot of people like me who I didn't have American Girl nostalgia because it was such a prestige product. It was, like, not as accessible as Barbie. And I feel like from my perspective, they made a decision somewhere along the way of like Barbie's accessible, American Girl is prestige. And now I think American Girl is like, it's harder to just do the nostalgia strategy because you have to be a second generation American Girl to really appreciate it, you know?
I hear you. You know what
Yeah.
I feel like though, because they have, I mean, like, it's interesting, like when you walk around the store, even it's just so much more like visceral of like how many dolls and storylines they have. Like they have a doll of the year that like clearly I don't even know. I mean, I'm assuming that there's like a book series. Like most of the
Mhm.
traditional dolls all have like
Mhm.
these book series that like partner with the doll and
Yes.
it tells the doll story. So like I would assume like the new one does too. And like so the dolls are like personified and they have like worlds. Like it's world building. And so
Yeah.
it's just interesting to me that like they wouldn't immediately just like think about like how do you make it like, again, media so like they can like
Mhm.
watch it. Like
Yeah.
and also I just think separately like the historical angle is very fascinating to me just because I personally I think like there's like a number of history creators, like we wrote about it for Empty Deco
Yeah.
Mhm.
a couple months ago. Like I think people like to learn about history, like, I don't know. And like there's also those things like my son who's in second grade, like he's like I feel like we all went through the obsession with the Titanic phase. Like everyone really obsessed with Titanic and you're like, or like the pyramids, like you're like, I really just get into ancient Egypt. And I feel like there's such a like opportunity there. Like I feel like American Girl could even have like learning, it's like a learning component with it.
Yeah.
So, like it could, I don't it's like not Schoolhouse Rock, but like a cool way to like learn about history, but through like fictional narrative kind
Mhm.
of. I don't know. Historical fiction.
They
Yeah. American Girl,
are
call us.
Call us American Girl. Oh my God. I would love to work with American.
I mean, they are making moves. I caught an article earlier this week that they're releasing their first novel for adults, and it's about Samantha as she is now, I think, in her 20s. So that'll be interesting. I don't think it's out yet, but they just announced it because I guess it's their 40th anniversary. So they're doing like a big push this year. Um,
That is so
but
interesting.
it's interesting because
Art.
maybe because it's so steeped in, like, history, and I was an American Girl and Barbie. I just liked dolls when I was little. And I loved the historical ones. I had Addie, I had Josefina, like, I had all the historical ones. I read their books. I feel like that's what, like, laid the foundation for me to be a reader, like, even now at
Oh my
28.
God, I love this, Emma. This is
Loved them.
we
That was
need to work with American Girls. Someone
I know we do need to. Um, but it's interesting as I was aging out of American Girl dolls, I feel like they started releasing like more modern dolls. And I was like, well, I don't care. Like, I don't need to read about a girl my age in like 2010 because I know what life is like,
Yeah.
and that's when I started to lose interest. So yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like the historical aspect of it is what made it different, and also from Barbie too, because like, I was like, "I don't need a modern American Girl doll, I have my, like, Barbie dream house when I like and her convertible," and that's where I get my modern kicks from.
Yep. I love that.
Okay, and Melissa, well, you have a conference coming up too.
Ew, I'm so excited. It's the second conference that I'll be doing in since November. So, which is really exciting and sort of kind of newer for me. Even though, I've had Empty Deco for 8 years now. It's kind of crazy, but just rolling with it. So I have been invited to the E-Tail West conference. So it's an e-commerce focused conference down in Palm Springs. And I will be doing a fireside chat with an executive from Thrive Market, the online market. So I'm really excited. It's tomorrow afternoon around 3 p.m. I believe. No, you know what? 2:40. And so I'm really excited. We have some really great questions laid out, and she and I, her name is Juliana. Like we've had a couple great prep calls. So we're really going to be talking. She's done a ton of work with creators, actually, with Thrive. So I'm really excited to talk to her about that. So more to come from the conference. I'll probably do some sort of write up or post out of it for MT Deco. But yeah, no, I'm so excited to do it. I have to say too, like last conference I went to, I was presenting a presentation that I built around all the work that we do with GoFundMe alongside their head of communications, which is amazing. But I feel so much less stress heading into this.
No pressure. That's a big deal.
It was a big deal. And it was really
Yeah.
fun. And like, again, Sarah is amazing. So, there was no real downside to it besides my anxiety. And so this time I feel way more like, oh my gosh, I just think this is going to be fun and like a great conversation. And, I'm just curious to learn from her and it'll be great. So more to come.
That's awesome. I'm
Hey,
looking forward to seeing the pictures and stuff.
I know they always take, again, with my broken foot, I'm trying to it's so funny because I normally wear heels, and so I'm just, living this wearing flats kind of world. And so I literally I'm gonna be packing in like an hour after this, after I get some more work done. And I'm like, I don't know what to wear. Like, this is so funny. Like, how do you style a boot? Also, you guys, it's winter still, right? Like, can I wear tights or like black tights?
Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Because here in California and then going to Palm Springs, and then even yesterday, like I was in Nordstrom's, like just on Sunday, I was in Nordstrom's, like looking around just to see like what should I maybe wear to this conference, and everything is spring wear right now, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, no,
I'm
right?
so
So
jealous of you guys. I I just had a blizzard.
I was still like trapped inside.
Like, yeah, no, you can wear whatever. The weather's perfect.
Oh my gosh.
So jealous. Usually I love the seasons, but I'm like, I'm over it. So over the cold and the snow. Okay. But what I did want to talk to you guys today is we've been like percolating this like on our Substack for I want to say like 9 months now, and I feel like it's finally like starting to come into the mainstream, and that is the rise of employee generated content and like employee corporate influencers. So, if you don't know, employee influencers are corporate team members who produce content for the brand. They can be on the social team, it could be executives, like they're content creators for the company that they work for. Kind of like what we're doing right now for Empty Deco and Cool Shiny. Um, but so we've kind of been talking about this, and like LinkedIn is becoming like more of a content creator platform. And Sprout just released their like 2026 content report, diving into like what audiences online want from brand content in 2026. And the number one thing they wanted that audience members want brands to prioritize is human generated content. And employee influencers are, I feel like, the perfect people to do that. So funny. So I wanted to kind of talk, Megan, about like your Staples baddie piece, because I feel like that is kind of, she is what like broke this conversation into like the mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword because on the one hand, it's great, especially when the employees are down and like we are, open to doing this type of thing.
Mhm.
And Staples really struck gold with Staples Baddie. So if you don't know, that's an employee who works at a Staples who just started making content and like on TikTok, talking to her camera and just saying like, let me show you what we have here at Staples. And everyone fell in love with her for her personality and the vibes and started being like, I didn't know Staples could do all of this stuff. And it's led to a bunch of relevance for Staples, people actually going into the store to shop, ordering mugs and business cards, a lot of the things that she's been promoting. And so they
Mhm.
really struck gold on accident. So they've really found themselves run into this trend of employee creation, not on purpose, but it's a great use case for why this content is resonating. And I think part of it is like, and we always say this, but authenticity, but specifically that for someone working a job like that at Staples to make content on the side talking about giving recommendations, that is also saying that this is really good because this person doesn't have to be making this content for me. Staples isn't asking them to do this, but they just are. And so in our recommendations, it's like one of the things that we said for this year is like, if you want to get this type of content and type of engagement out of employees, you need to incentivize going above and beyond. And like they need to feel like they're part of the brand as a whole. So while it's great to get the content, it comes from a place of actually really liking your job. And so you have to kind of start there. So as much as I'm like, yes, we're going to get there to where employees are making content, I'm cautioning brands against being like, all right, let me go pick someone to be our employee content creator, because it's just simply not going to work unless that person is passionate about the brand and loves their job the way that Staples Baddie does. So that's my one like watch out as we go into this new creator era, because when it works, like with Staples Baddie or with Zaria at Duolingo, it really, really works. But you really have to make sure you've got that right employee fit before you just are like, this is what we're doing.
Oh, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I also think that there's like the world where, I know that there's brands that actually hire creators too. Like individuals that are already seasoned creators to then come and be in-house. And I think that, like, to your point, Megan, like the creator parasocial relationship to their audience has to be rooted in like real taste, real, again, authenticity, but like it has to be like actually like it has to be actually really reflective of like their preferences and their taste. So I think like, again, I always go back to like one of my favorite accounts that I've mentioned many times, but the Instagram handle of like things I bought and liked, or things I bought and loved. Like, again, love, and she's an anonymous creator. We know enough about her. But it's interesting, like, I feel like I know so much about her just literally through like her content is like things that she bought and liked. And it's like it all sort of by storytelling with what she liked, you then like find out like you kind of have a sense of where she lives. She's a mom, she has 2 kids. That she like, she works. She also like it's like all these like insane details, but like I still don't know who she is, which is the most fun of it all. So anyway, back to like the point of this is that like if you're a brand and you want to like recreate the Staples Baddie, which is kind of like also the idea of like you're a brand and you want everything to go viral. It's like, I think you're right. If you want to there's 2 different directions right? There's either incentivizing from internal and also making a culture where people feel comfortable about content creation. And I think that like, and storytelling, like their job. I think that like, what's interesting is that like, this is a newer thing, right? Like, we always would kind of complain about it, like, because I started my career at NBC in 2006, many years ago. And, you know, again, working in news, but even working in entertainment, like if TikTok was around then, like there was so much content to post, right? Like, and there was, Twitter, but like it was like not it was passe. Like you were not supposed to really post about your job, what's happening behind the scenes. Also, like an added layer that like if you worked in news, you like as a journalist or as a producer, you weren't supposed to be the story. You had to facilitate the story for an audience. So there's always like for those of us who like sort of rose through the ranks in those years, we're always like, oh, we missed like the golden era of social media, like to go viral and like to have had huge audiences because you just like couldn't do that. But again, like at the time, the access that I had, like I was doing you know, the Toyota summer concert series at the Today Show, like meeting I met Justin Bieber when he was 16, like Taylor Swift, like Katy Perry, like all the lines, like all the access, like there was so much cool, like now I'm like this behind the scenes video would have been so good. But so I think that there's this like era now where like we think about it with clients too. Like, how do you kind of create like social media guidelines where you like facilitate this, but there's still like sort of appropriate and it is
And
okay. Like, I don't know.
And I think that's the hard part because so much of the magic gets lost once you start adding brand guidelines.
Mhm.
Like even this is something I've seen. I'm a big TJ Maxx shopper, Maxxinista. So there's this TJ Maxx employee who arranges all of the products and will share, like, look, I just did this beautiful shelf. And like I think that like that's really cool and I love to see it. But I know for a fact that like if he gets caught doing that on the job, he's in trouble. So it's like on the one hand, from a capital B brand perspective, this is good overall for the TJ Maxx brand and raising their awareness. But in the store, like there's not really like the oversight there to like, how do we handle this? How do we deal with this? So it's like, I think brands have to figure out like how precious they want to be about controlling their brand image. And then that's really all that they can control. I don't think they're really going to be able to give people guidelines of like, you can post about our brands if. I think it's going to be like, you're allowed or you're not, to what degree. And like that will kind of be all that they can really actually control on a wide scale beyond like individual employees they are hiring to create content. But then that loses a lot of the magic that is going to make something just naturally, organically take off. So it's like a trade-off of how much control you want versus how much Instagram viral magic you want?
It's
What's
interesting.
interesting? I was just going to add to that too. Like, and this, I feel like this is always where I feel like your voice of reason comes into, Megan. It's always when like the money comes in, right? And this is something that's also really interesting. Like, I've brought this up for years, like even when I, again, was working at NBC and CNN, like when we would help our like news anchors with their social media accounts. And, our teams would be like helping clip video from the show and like we would help support them because it helps the brand. But the elephant in the room is that it's their account. So if they leave
Mhm,
the company, they're walking away with it,
mhm.
And so it's just sort of interesting to think about like, okay, like if, from TJ Maxx, like if somebody rises to the rank of like a creator, you know,
Yeah,
at what line, where do the lines kind of get drawn? Like suddenly they have an agent,
yeah,
suddenly they're a brand ambassador, suddenly they need to be like paid for that content. Then
yeah.
what content does the brand own versus like what content does that person own?
Yeah. I
It's
don't
very fascinating.
I don't know if you guys wanna give this away, but don't you have a creator spotlight coming up where you're talking to an employee creator?
Are we?
Your
Mm,
next Q&A? I
our
don't wanna
next
blow up the
Q&A?
spot.
Oh, she did. She started as an employee. We
I don't know if it's a
okay.
surprise drop, but I know
We
that as an employee creator that you guys are
we
gonna be.
talked
Emma's
to
just like, what?
wait, she's an entrepreneur now. But
Yes, yes.
Alexis Barber is our Q&A for this month, and she started content creation while she was in marketing at Google. She then went to YouTube for a bit, and she got her MBA at Wharton, and now she's doing her own thing as a content creator and consultant. But she started I think she was fresh out of college. I think she was like 22, and it was like, here's a day in my life working for Google. And she didn't give anything like proprietary away, but it was like her comments and like her audience to this day, I think it's like 5 years later, like are still filled with young, ambitious women who like loved getting that insight into like what a 22-year-old working at one of the biggest companies in the world was doing, like how she was spending her Tuesday afternoon at work.
Yeah.
Um, and I asked her specifically about that, like, were you nervous about what Google was going to think? So stay tuned for like how that shook out for her. But yeah, I think it reminds me, it's interesting, Melissa, like, I feel like how when you were in news, it was like kind of like your personal content was locked down because now I feel like news orgs are the best at this employee
I
generated
know. I know. Don't
content.
even get me started. I know. I'm like, ugh.
Like the Morning Brew, the Washington Post, like RIP, I don't know if they're like TikTok. I think they might have been a casualty in the recent layoffs. I'm not sure though. I will, when this is posted, I will fact check myself. But I think it'll be interesting to see specifically how that shakes out because the Washington Post did that was interesting with their TikTok account is they let the journalist who ran their TikTok co-publish with his personal account. And I believe he was also posting content like on his personal YouTube as well. Again, I will fact check myself if that is not the case. But I will check out his account and like what happened to that content. Like, is he removed as a co-publisher now? I also think he's probably bigger than the like brand now.
Staples Baddie is huge compared to the Staples account.
Which, I mean, she did it in 1 month and they've been on TikTok for years. It's incredible.
I know. Well, we have one of our favorite clients actually watching right now. Hi, Mariana. Hi, Gra. And I was just going to say, those guys, like, same thing. Like, if, like, the audiences are there, if you can align with, like, what your value add is, what it is that you can provide to them, and you do it in a way that works for how they're consuming content, and you're doing it in an ongoing way. It goes back to, like, I feel like the, like, larger theme of this call, going back to what Megan said too, it's like YouTube Kids content. It's just like doing the basics and doing the basics really well, and like, not getting distracted and staying super focused. I feel like one of like the largest, like, number one things I tell people too who like aspire to be creators. I have a good friend who's like, down and dirty with being a creator right now too, and she's like in the weeds and she's doing such a great job. It's just like you have to be resilient and disciplined. Like,
Yes.
I don't think people understand just how like vulnerable you have to feel, like putting yourself out there, how you have to sort of, and again, just do it over and over and over again, where you just kind of like, stay focused. Because like, again, if you hit it right, you hit the audience right, you can take off in a month. You really can, so.
Yeah.
That's what we want one day for Empty Deco content.
Who knows? I feel like Substack is a mysterious place. Who knows?
Such a mysterious place we all are in right now.
I know. Well, thank you guys so much for today's conversation. And a lot more to come. Melissa's conference, getting the scoop on how that goes, employee influencers, Alexis Barber.
The cool shiny readout also from Kidscreen.
YouTube.
Yeah, Megan, we'll make sure. Are you guys publishing that on Friday?
On Friday, yeah. Probably after you guys, though. You guys are on top of it, and we're a little later. So
we'll get it out also on our Monday cultural gems.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Great.
Thank you. And American Girl, call us.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Good luck, memes. Break a leg.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.